Hey guys, welcome back to the latest episode of the Growing a Dental Practice podcast. I am your host, Mike Hennon, and today I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Sahil Thakkar. Sahil, how you doing?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Busy day, so I'm just glad to be sitting at home and not having hands in people's mouths, to be honest. So
I
yeah.
was gonna say it's been a busy day, and you're really happy to be sitting on a podcast at like 10 to 9 with me.
Well, actually, it works. It works in terms of timing. So this is great. We're gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna go to bed. That's a good evening.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Actually, that sounds a bit cheeky, really. It sounds like this is going to put you to sleep.
No, it isn't.
Oh man, you're probably like, I get the best amount of sleep when I've had a podcast with Mike because I'm so bored.
Well, to be honest, I'm surprised you don't feel like that. But
Dude, I love talking to you.
Well, we can go on for a
this.
bit, can't we? We can go on for a bit. So
I kid you not. Kyle, when I told Kyle that I was going to be talking to you, he was like, "Oh God, that's going to go on forever, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, it could be a little while."
He's just started a new series on like Game of Thrones or something. He's occupied for the next 12 hours.
Oh yeah, he's done. He did. I think he did the first series of Game of Thrones the last time we spoke.
Yeah, well there you are. Or something else. We'll watch a whole Harry Potter movie. Exactly.
Yeah, we're just mumbling now.
Yeah.
So today's plan is to, we start at 2022. Last year was a big year for you. You got your principal shoes, or whatever the phrase is.
Hat.
You got the keys. You got the keys
Yes.
to your practice.
Yes.
It was already over. It took a couple of years to get to that process. That point anyway. You opened. Did we discuss it was the 23rd of April or 24th? 24th of April 2021. So you've had a good 8 months under your belt now. So The idea of today is to talk about, so how did last year go? How did it compare to your expectations? And then I'll ask you some more questions. So how did it go? First of all, how would you rate your first 8 months as a principal?
Oh, I thought you meant the whole year. How do I rate my...
You can talk about the whole year. You can talk about
the whole year is quite simple because this time last year I was an associate, and this year, well, to be fair, I'm still an associate and I'm also a principal, so it's better.
Does that feel weird though? Does it feel weird though that you can say this year I'm going to be a principal for the entire year?
Yes, I guess it does, but I suppose I think it depends on your attitude as an associate. If you sort of see yourself as a business in any case, which in effect most dental associates are, then not so much, because you do have your mind on, this is how we do this treatment. This is the profitability of this treatment, for example. This is how long this takes. This is how to be efficient in this manner. So if you're already thinking like that, then in terms of this is how collecting reviews, getting a whole proper series of photographs and stuff like that. And it's not just a case of these are for my clinical records, but making sure these are acceptable for actually showing other people. If you're already in that mode, then I don't think it makes a huge difference. But yeah, how else is being a principal different? There's a lot more stress. We were just talking about my hair, which is starting to thin. I would say my hair's been thinning for the last 3 years, but to be fair, most of the time you can't really tell, so it's not too bad. There's a lot more stuff to think about, which I didn't have to think about last year. I had to think about staffing. So this evening I've messaged one of my nurses who I don't think she's tested positive for COVID, but near enough. You've got, she's been in contact for COVID, etc. And we've asked her to take a few days off as per the guidelines, and now we're expecting her back this week. But these kind of things you don't have to think about as an associate, because as an associate, it's a day off if you have to cancel the day. and you don't really think about, the other 50%, because as an associate, you might be taking 50% of what you gross, and the other 50%, the principal doesn't take that home. You have bills to pay. So for the associate, they've only lost X amount, but the principal's lost the rest, and the overheads don't go away. So there's a bit more pressure. There's a bit more stress in terms of. Previously, it was a case of if I don't see patients, if I have to take a day off, then I'm just not going to be able to save as much this month. And this time around, it's more like if I have to take a day off, maybe we're going to need to. Maybe this month we'll spend more than we're taking in. So that's something. Although we've got a bit of a cushion now. That's not such a bad thing. That's not such a bad concern at the moment, or a big concern at the moment. It's something that you have to think about, at least in the early days. So you asked me in the last 8 months, how has it been? Starting off extremely stressful, partly because you don't know I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sure other people will be in different boats. They may have family members, or they may have business partners or stuff like that who know a little bit more about what they're doing, or mentors or stuff like that. Whereas for me, it was a case of, right, I'm going to pick as many brains as possible, put it together, and that was very smooth.
Oh, did you see that?
Very smooth. So I'm just going to pause the podcast here for a second. Mike needed to take a cough. Such a gentleman he is, he put himself on mute. Which you'll only see that if you see the video recording. So definitely tune into the video recording. And
see, I was going for the smooth, and you've just made a whole big thing out of it.
Well, no, come on. We've got to put it out there. This is now also going out as a video recording, and it's not just.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true. So if you want to see me and Sahil, and I was gonna make a joke about the hair thinning. So I'm thinking, if we do this for quite a long time, which I'm hoping to do, if someone, we're going to be able to do a very quick time lapse of you just getting older, probably thinner and thinner hair, and then maybe even going grey.
You know what? The beard, yes, but the hair. This is back to front. I've only got one grey hair so far, which
Oh, you'll be fine then.
Yeah, I think I should be okay. Gives me more credibility.
Exactly. So we could run a series on how being a principal ages you.
That gives you more credibility. This is the exact this is why principals will have a higher conversion rate. It's got nothing to do with the fact that they own the practices, because they've got more grey hairs. It's
wisdom. Does that translate to wisdom in the eyes of a patient?
Yeah, the patients believe you more. But yeah, just going back, initially it was a case of I didn't really know what I was doing, and I think that comes across in previous podcasts where I've said that a few times, where it just doesn't, you don't understand why people aren't as driven as you. You don't understand why it matters if you filled in XYZ paperwork. You don't understand why people just won't do what they said they'll do. So I think I brought that up in one of the first podcasts, where the biggest problem throughout the whole thing is no one ever keeps up their side of the bargain. And being a dentist, you're expected to be whiter than white in terms of from day one of dental school, you're conditioned to be never make a mistake, because that's the end of the world. You'll be in front of the GDC sort of thing, and then you realise, well, actually, no one cares. No one else does it. It's like there's no such thing as professionalism in other professions. So it's that sort of thing. But then what you realise, it quickly puts yourself into the context that it doesn't matter. It's like, so, we said a few minutes ago that we opened on the 24th of April. We got our CQC paperwork through on the Friday, and we opened on Saturday, and we'd already pushed everything back a week. And I didn't need to do that. We could have opened a week later and things be a little bit smoother. And, but then the flip side of that is the more time, if you put yourself under that sort of pressure, the ball is rolling quicker, your bills are getting paid quicker. and you've got that little bit more reassurance. Whereas in hindsight, it would have been nice for stress to have that extra week between CQC approval and opening. But in that first weekend, I think because we'd already pushed people back a week, and I'd call them personally to say, "Hey, look, this is the situation." We didn't actually fail our CQC or anything. CQC just needed a build control certificate, and the guy was literally on holiday. Or something to that effect. He wasn't in the office. So that was literally the delay. And by the time we got the paperwork through, it had been another week. And if I'm absolutely honest, the lady from CQC was fantastic. I mean, this woman was so amazing. She literally, I emailed her. She called me 2 minutes later. She's like, right, that's it. It's all gone through. I've ticked the box, and I'll email you personally. I'll email you paperwork now. So as long as you've got that in your possession, you can open. But it's little things like that where you realize in hindsight, actually, I didn't need to put myself under pressure then. But then on the flip side, at that moment in time, you just want to get open as quickly as possible because you want people to come in. You want to start doing, start to bring money through the door because you've been spending so much and you've been going crazy in the last few months, and you realize it's not actually, you've got nothing to show for it until the till starts to ring. So that, I think those were the problems in the first couple of months where I like to have things a certain way, and I wasn't happy with how things were going in terms of we still don't have a toilet roll holder in the staff bathroom. Little things like that.
That's the thing you just brought up. The fact you haven't got a toilet roll holder in the staff toilet.
but it's little things like that which sort of play on your mind. But in the grand scheme of things, it makes no difference.
It doesn't make any difference, does it?
Yeah, no. Exactly. And you've seen the practice. We still haven't got round to painting the kitchen. So I think I may have mentioned this. We asked not to floor certain areas. We asked not to paint certain areas of the practice because, I mean, it's a big unit. It's over 2,200 square feet. So getting that decorated, costs more than a lot of people will spend kitting out. Having to be pragmatic in that way. But also, these are compromises that you have to make throughout the process where you have to accept that things aren't going to be perfect because at the end of the month, you want to pay your bills, and that's more important than it is having perfection. Whereas as an associate, you don't realize this so much. You just think, right. And this is exactly how I am as an associate. Don't get me wrong. As an associate, to me, this is the risk that a practice owner takes. That's on them. And so if my handpieces don't work, that's not my problem because that should be... That's why we pay a license fee, which I can understand. But I kind of now understand the flip side where actually deciding to cancel the whole afternoon because the air conditioning wasn't working. To be fair, I think that's a good thing.
But did that happen?
Yeah, I've done that as an associate. It happened. We had a heat wave. What, September? Maybe August, September.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been. So you cancelled the whole day because it was too hot in the surgery, and it was
it was honestly because we have to wear the gowns and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
of course.
As a principal, I may have made a different decision, but I went into work. It was 8 a.m. It was already 30 degrees or whatever. The room had no air conditioning. There was very little ventilation, natural ventilation in the room. The windows don't open fully. Because it's first floor. And my nurse said to me, "I'm feeling a bit faint. I don't know how we're going to do this afternoon." And we only had one patient that afternoon. I said, "Look, it's too hot." Because we also owe it to our patients to do a good job. But that said, as a principal, would I have done the same thing? I'm not sure.
Different shoes, isn't it?
Exactly. But then that said, as a principal, I know that that's the first problem that I'd have got fixed. Because I guess the way that I think is still a little bit naive. I was talking to a friend last week. So, I've said to you previously that we're putting a second chair in, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We've been approved for that finance for months. Honestly, I just need to get on with it. And then I went to have a look at the chair, and then they're now on 6-month lead time. So these are other things that you need to think about that you don't need to think about previously. The logistics of everything. You become a master project manager. It's like, I want a new surgery. Right, let's call all these builders. No one answers. We need some flooring. No one gets back to you. Oh, we need a chair. Oh, by the way, that's on a 6-month wait list. So in any case, I was speaking to this guy last week, and he was saying to me, let's put this into context a little bit more. No one cares what chair they're in. Just stick Netflix on the TV and get working, and it doesn't matter if your chair is secondhand or whatever. Now, for me, I'm not of that particular school of thought. I would much rather know that we've got the best stuff, if that makes sense. Even if the
you've always said that, haven't you? You've always said I might as well invest in the best stuff to begin with, because it will last longer. And
exactly. And it will last longer, but also if you feel good about the environment you work in, I think you'll probably take better care of it. Or I'd like to think that maybe I'm still naive about that. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't take good care of that. And if you've got better kit, you're going to be in a better mood. You're gonna speak better.
I was going to say better mood.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you might not take care of it as much as you would like them to, but they might they might enjoy going to work. Obviously, that should then shine through to like their interaction with the patients. And you've just touched on TV, so I'm just gonna, in case anyone didn't listen to a previous podcast, if you're gonna have 2 TVs in your practice, make sure they're different brands.
Yes, definitely do that.
I think that's the biggest lesson from 2021.
Yes, I think that. You know what? I think so. I think so.
So just for context, so I went and visited Sahil's surgery, and he was like, "Look at this problem I've just discovered." So he had an LG TV on the top, on the ceiling, and an LG TV on the wall. And if you turned one on, the other one would go off, and if you turned right, and vice versa. It was fantastic. They both go on.
I think that's a great analogy for the whole thing in terms of setting up a practice. You can go into so much detail, but at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. Because I went into so much detail. Honestly, Peter, the guy, I'll ask actually if he wouldn't mind joining us. But Peter, who designed the practice, probably ruined his life in terms of the amount of changes I asked him to make. And I went into the practice as it was being built, and I got the tape measure out, and I made sure that screw went. I measured out the bracket that I'd bought. I actually bought the bracket off Amazon probably 3 months before it was required, because I wanted that TV dead center over the chair, and I wasn't going to accept anything less. So that one on the ceiling is perfectly in line with the one on the wall. But the only problem is I never thought that they'd run off the same remote. That didn't even occur to me. And, for some people, that'd be the first thing that they think. And that's really an analogy of the whole process. You can overthink stuff, but sometimes it's just better to get things done and then worry about it later. And, if it's good enough, although that doesn't sit well with me, if it's good enough, that's okay to start with, and then of course you can build on that. So I think that's the biggest take home in the last 8 months.
That is a good take home. Like, is that you could wait around you could delay everything for ages just to make sure it's perfect.
Yeah.
But so something we've started saying is like, as long as it's 60% done, get it out the door.
Yes.
Which sounds really low. Which it does sound really low, but it's like you can always improve it.
No, but I've actually got. The book Start Now, Get Perfect Later, and that's exactly what I did. I started the book and didn't finish it
because you were trying to do.
I was too busy getting perfect. I was like, that sounds good. Read a couple of pages and I was like, yes, let's move on. But no, so that is I think that's a good lesson. Take home. Get started.
You can always improve it, which is great. Exactly. Which the fact that you've got space for 5 surgeries, but you started off with 1, and you're gonna you progressively adding to as you get the money in and the demand and.
Yeah, but also it's like we could have kitted everything out, and I'm sure people would have lent us the money, and I probably paid for it out of savings, but just knowing that little bit of extra money that I owe or I don't have in my hand, just having that, or in the knowledge that I haven't borrowed it. Reassures you a lot more. But then it comes to the stage where actually you walk into a room and you haven't got proper flooring, and it gets a bit annoying. So but now we're in a better position to actually just get everything done and not worry about it. And so that's what I'd do.
Perfect, man. And so that's kind of some of the lessons you've learned and some of the things that have happened. How you do it? Obviously, we had a podcast, actually ended up splitting it into 3 because it was so detailed. Your business plan and your projections. How are you doing versus them? Are you on target? Are you?
So the numbers that matter, which I suppose you'll want to know, the average monthly revenue, we are close to, I wouldn't say double, but not too far off. So we're expected to make about 20k a month, and we're probably making between 30 and 40, depending on the month. We're doing that's me and a hygienist. The reason why that's happening, partly because the numbers were quite conservative, but the reason why that's happening is because the number of active patients is actually lower than what we were expecting. So I was hoping to be, month 8. We're about month 8. I was hoping to be around so I've got the projections of 578. We're about the 400 mark.
Okay.
And I know that there are other practices who have been open less than us who've got more patients. But people need so much work that you have to spend more time with each patient. That's great because the checkup is a loss leader, but everything else, at the moment, just doing general dentistry and doing it wisely, doing it profitably, doing it wisely and doing it as per the evidence, i.e., so for dentists listening, putting an onlay on a tooth or recommending an onlay when that's required, charging appropriately for your time for when you do a filling. So quite often, Mike, I'm sure, so you design websites and I'm sure you'll see this, that the cost of a filling starts from about £100. But a filling will often take about half an hour. And so a simple filling. And if an average surgery is charging the equivalent of £200 an hour, they're probably taking home enough if the principal is also the dentist. So they're not, they're essentially financially doping their practice, because that amount of money is okay if there's only one person, i.e., the principal and the dentist are the same person. If the principal is separate to the dentist, i.e., you've got an associate, that maths doesn't add up. And so that's what I mean by, if you're charging appropriately, you can get away with fewer patients, which, I suppose that makes sense, doesn't it? You charge more, you see fewer patients. But actually charging for your time and making sure that everything pays more or less the same as an hourly rate. So our crowns pay a similar hourly rate to our fillings. But what that means for me is that there's no bias towards saying to someone, oh, go for this treatment instead of that treatment, because I know that I'm going to, I know my limits, and I guess I trust myself to tell patients the right thing in an ethical way. But eventually there'll be associates and I may not be so hands-on, and the fee structure should always be that way. And the first thing I said, doing the correct treatment, as per the evidence base. So quite often I'll see huge fillings in a tooth, and that's happened either because the patient has declined the recommended treatment, or the dentist hasn't realized that you need more than just a filling, or the dentist has failed to convey this is why you need a crown or an onlay as opposed to a filling. And a crown or an onlay will be closer to £800, it will be close to 3 times as much basically as a large filling. And if you're scanning patients as we are, taking photographs, to be honest, I don't take that many photographs. I scan everyone, but I don't take that many photographs. You can convey this a lot better to your patients, and everyone's got a problem. I mean, that doesn't mean you go crazy treating them. You obviously have to explain to patients, right, heads up, you've got a problem here. We can treat it. We can be proactive or we can be reactive. There's no right or wrong way. That depends on you as a person and what your attitude to risk is. If you've got a chip on your windscreen, do you wait till it cracks or do you fix it early? that sort of analogy. And different people will have different things. Some people will just outright look at you saying you're a money grabbing X, Y, and Z, which is fine, because I know that I'm not saying anything incorrect, because I've invested a lot in my education, and I know that I've got the evidence to prove and support what I'm saying. If the patient has that attitude, no one ever says that to your face, or I haven't had that anyway. Maybe I'm just really trustworthy. Maybe it's grey hairs. But you can see that some people are not quite there in terms of their beliefs, but then maybe these are the kind of people who spend a lot of time in that denial phase where they don't actually have that problem. And I'm sure that they'll turn up in a couple of years' time with a broken tooth or needing a root canal and a crown, which is 1,500 quid's worth of treatment, as opposed to 150 pounds worth of filling. And but at that point, we'll treat them quite happily, and that's not a problem, because you can't get through to everyone. But just going back to what I was saying with regards to the projection, so we're lower on patient numbers, and the problem I have with that, obviously, is hopefully all the patients stay with us. We did do a cull, but I'll come to that in a second.
Oh wow, that sounds horrific.
No, it just took people off our mailing list. But having fewer patients to start with, although they need more treatment, means fewer recalls. So we are going to need to make up the patient numbers, but for now we're doing okay, quite simply because we just have a lot of patients who have a lot of treatment need, and this is something that I think everyone will tell you at the moment. Is a problem.
So based on your projections, you've got fewer active patients, but like the value of each patient
is higher.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Awesome, man. It's all right. Tell me about the culling. What's led to it?
Yes. So this is this is something that I wasn't in a position to last year, because as an associate in a predominantly NHS practice, you're not in charge. Or you feel like you can't say no to anyone. And I think I said to you in one of the first few podcasts, where within a few weeks of opening, I was declining to treat people because I didn't think they were right for us. And that's a really big part of how I feel we should be treating patients. If they're not right for us, that gut instinct, if it's there, you just get rid. And we've just taken people off the mailing list. So we sent out a Merry Christmas thing, and a lot of patients didn't get them. We'll still send people recalls. So unless they've said to us, we don't want to be a patient with you anymore, which is fine. There's obviously, we can't just tell people behind their back that we're not going to be honest, everyone's an adult. So I suppose you could just not, send people recalls, but we still send people recalls, but we only send them once, for example. We won't. Our computer software allows us to chase people, so we'll only chase the people we actually want to see. And the patients who have lapsed, that's fine, because at the first visit, if there was that sort of, this person's a bit, I'm not sure, so I had a person who had a crack in their tooth. Now cracks are can be quite difficult to deal with, but this person wanted essentially a fixed fee for what the problem we didn't know. We didn't fully know the extent of, and I said, look, if this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. Unfortunately, I told him the fee for the crown right at the start, not right at the end, because had I known how many questions he was going to ask, I would have increased my fee accordingly, because we probably spent longer talking about it than we did actually doing it. And do I want to see that patient again? No, because essentially what he said before he started was, I don't want to come back for this problem. And I was like, well, no, I don't think you understand the problem fully.
Yeah.
And if I've spent 40 minutes explaining the problem to you, I think perhaps the problem's with you, not with me. So, we're going to try not seeing this patient as much as we can. We won't send more than one recall.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, because you're, that's one of the beauties of being your own boss, isn't it? If you can make those decisions.
But even as an associate, I feel like other people should have, because not everyone's right for everyone else, and I feel like other people should have that ethos. But I think a lot of people are too scared of either the patient or a complaint, or they're too scared of the bottom line. And I think maybe I have too much of an appetite for risk. I don't
No, because it's like, so we obviously we qualify clients, and if we don't think they're the right fit for us, so we will turn them down. But when you mention that to like another agency owner or whatever, they're like, no, I would just, never say no. And it's actually just get on with it. But it's just not. You've all had those projects. You probably have those patients where the money just isn't worth it. Like,
but also I kind of agree with the never say no thing. But you've got to say no, but not say no. If that makes sense, you've got to say no and make it their problem. So not necessarily we can't do this for you, but this is what we can do this for you, and just putting the onus on them in terms of their problems. Because I think even me, someone who recognizes that other people, don't like to own their problems, I'm sure I put other people in that situation where I've got a problem and I'm making it someone else's problem. And you don't realize that until you actually reflect on it. And then you think, oh, actually, maybe I pushed that person a bit too much because the problem was actually with me, but I didn't see that at the time. But so, and just go on. You were going to say something.
No.
I've lost my track of thought.
I was good. I could tell you kind of like you had something in your mind and it went.
It just went. Yeah, that light bulb was just gone.
That's good. I'm glad. It's good that I'm glad that you're obviously you're probably quite relieved that you're not relieved because you know what you're doing anyway. But you're ahead on in terms of like revenue per month, which is cool.
We're also ahead on costs, and this is something else where we had a brand new building, and our building hadn't been valued by the valuation office agency, they're called, which is part of HMRC, who values your property and determines how much business rates you're going to pay. And when you get a huge bill that you weren't expecting, I was expecting ours to be half, and ours are over 30k. Which is so we're making more money, but we're also spending more money than expected. So it sort of, I wouldn't say it evens it out. I think we're still in a better situation than expected, but it's not it's not all the land of
that's a bit of a surprise. How do you receive a bill like that? Is that like an
they just send it?
It is like just a letter saying you owe us this amount.
Yeah, so basically what happened was, obviously I know that I'm expecting a business rates bill, so I just dropped them an email and that was it. I'm sure there were a better way I could have chased it, but I didn't really want to know it, so that's my head in the sand moment. But not because I was putting my head in the sand, I was putting the money aside that I thought I needed. But I didn't really want to bring it to anyone's attention because cash flow is really, really important. And then obviously they catch up with you, so the council called and they said you're meant to be paying rates, and I was like, I've just been waiting to hear back from you guys, fire away. And then a couple of weeks later you get a letter saying, right, this is what we valued your property at, and then you pay 50 pence in the pound because your premises is this size. And that is that's what happens. And then on the back of the government agency, the VOA, sending you the valuation, the local council then send you their bill, which then I just called them up and said I'm not paying it, and he said why, and I said I can't afford it. So but
I love that.
So I think my words were along the line of, right, if you want me to pay this is the last time I'm going to pay this bill because I'm not going to have a business. So you've got two choices. I'm either going to pay a smaller amount, or I'm not going to pay it at all. Which do you think would be preferable for the council? And the guy said, right, okay, you can pay a smaller amount now. You can leave half until March, and then in March we'll look to spread it over the following year, if possible, if everything's, if we can do that. And what will happen in March is they'll probably say, right, cough up 20 grand, and I'll say to them no. And well, that's it. What are they going to do?
We'll ask you in March.
Well, exactly. I don't have the answer to that. But what I'm hoping is that they spread it over the next 10 months, which makes it a lot more manageable. Because again, as time goes on, you're in a better place to pay these bills. Your cash flow is better. But if they say no, then I'll give them the same options again. Business, no business. What would you like to do?
Yeah.
And
that's a super valuable tip for anyone listening.
Yeah, exactly. Never take. I think there are two ways of looking at it. When you're buying a product, never take the first thing at face value. When you're buying a service, pay people what they're worth. So when we're buying a dental chair, they're all the same. People will know more or less what they're doing. It can't be that difficult to plug in. I've never done one, but it can't be that difficult to plug in, because at the end of the day, it's made 5,000 miles away in Japan or America or whatever brand you go for. So with those sorts of things, I feel like you should negotiate as hard as you can, and go for it, because at the end of the day, a chair is a chair, a stool is a stool. But when you're paying for a service, for example, a website, you want to make sure that the person's right for you, that you get on with, and that you can that they're approachable. Thank you, Mike. But it's that sort of thing, and with business rate, it is just straight up a bill. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it's optional to pay. Don't get me wrong, but if you have a frank conversation with someone, you'll find that people have a lot more discretion than you realise. And it's the same with negotiating the lease, for example. You realise that people have a lot more discretion than you would first think. So I think that is that's a good tip. I think that's something to consider.
That's a very good tip.
Yeah. Obviously, you've got to pay gas and electric, because if they turn your gas and electric off, then you're a bit stuffed.
You're over.
Yeah, you're a bit stuffed. But something like council tax, I mean, the council's still going to run. So,
you just got to think about like what you as a business are doing for the local economy.
Yeah. There you are. And talking about that, how many people are we employing? We've probably got about 7 already. So we're ahead.
Wow.
We've got more people on the team than we were expecting. We're turning over more than we were expecting. Our costs are higher than more than we were expecting, and our patient numbers are lower. So that's where we are.
That's cool, man. Though. So obviously, in terms of staff, you've got yourself. You're the only dentist, yeah? Is that correct so far? You've got a hygienist.
Yes.
And then who are the rest? You've got a couple of nurses, and how's that? What's the setup there?
PM. So how many are we up to? That's me, 1, 2, 3. So PM, and then 2 nurses, 4, 5, and then a trainee, 6. Yes, 6.
Amazing, man.
Yeah, and
no wonder you're stressed.
It's actually okay. It's a good team. I think people are generally okay with each other. I think a couple of people don't get on, but it is what it is. This is what you'd expect.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get more of that. And I think it's just keeping people apart as much as possible if required. And if it starts to impair the way that I work, or the way that the team works, or the way that we treat our patients, I think that's when we have to put our foot down. But I think it's naive to assume that everyone gets on with everyone. I think I don't get me wrong. I think those teams do exist. So, for example, where I work as an associate in Chipping Norton, everyone started together. They're all really tight knit. The issue with that is you get a clique, and people, new people find it difficult to join that clique. So there's a problem even with a tight knit group. So that is, pros and cons to everything. Everyone's competent. Everyone does their job. It's we've got 7. We have got 7 because we've got 2 nurses, a trainee, a receptionist, a PM, me, and the hygienist. So there's 7 of us.
Okay, that's cool.
And we're looking to get 2 more. I'm hopefully going to be interviewing people tomorrow for. We're referring out too many root canals.
Okay.
So we need to get someone to do root canals. We need to get someone to do Botox and stuff like that. We're looking.
So you're bringing in more clinicians. You're bringing more clinicians in.
Yeah, hence the second chair. I mean, at the moment, some days we're running 4 days, and some days we're running 6. So it's we're getting to, and when we run 6 days, we tend to do long hours as well. So in terms of hours, we're probably running pretty much full time on the one chair, if not slightly more. And that that's going to add up to the wear and tear on the equipment. If something goes wrong, we're completely stuffed. I think we're at the stage where I don't want ever to be in the stage where we haven't got capacity or something's broken down, which it shouldn't. It's all brand new, but that's what the situation is there.
Okay. So have you ordered the chair?
No. So because I went to see it. So basically, in September we had I thought we were ready in September, and then we had a bit of a wobble, sort of the end of September, start of October. I think I might have mentioned that. And then I sort of put it off for a couple of months. We had a good couple of months, and then we sort of in November, December, I went to look at a new chair, and at that point we've got a 6-month wait list. So now I'm looking at different brands, or also just looking at a factory model, not a factory model, a display model, because obviously they're available straight away. So I'll see what happens. So I've got a few things to do tomorrow, a few interviews, a few chairs to go and see. So a lot of these things appear to be on a 2-month wait list. Some of these other brands, so I'll go and have a look at those and see what I think. Some of them are a bit cheaper as well. Some of them are no different. So I think it's just weighing up the pros and cons.
Yeah. So, but it should be a lot sooner than 6 months.
Well, yeah. So
hopefully,
for the dentists that are listening, or the chair connoisseurs, both Belmont and ADEC, both Belmont and ADEC at this moment in time have a 5 or 6 month wait list, and I think we're ready for that second chair. So we've got to go for an alternative option, which may be a different brand, or we'll see if we can get an X-Display chair, which, a lot of these are really high spec because they want to sell all the extras. It's just finding the right ones, because obviously I'm not the only person who has that idea, and other people will want to do the same. So it's a bit like the used car market.
Is there a bit of a bidding war for display
chairs?
I
don't know. I've been sent a quotation today, and I mean, we're already approved on the finance, so I think I'm just going to go and have a look at the chair tomorrow, have a look at the other brand that I'm going to have a look at. So the X-Display one's a Belmont one, and which is one of the 6 month wait brands. I think I may just go ahead and do the order, because again, just going back to what one of the main things I learned is just get on with it. A lot of the time you can spend a lot of energy just thinking about stuff, and in that time, if you then just done that extra one consultation, or sent that extra one letter, or chased that one more patient, you'd probably have made up that money that you were going to save, or that time that you were going to save, or whatever. So sometimes having that, is it called the growth mindset? I don't know.
What does that mean? Just like getting with it?
No, but like, I feel like there's another book coming on, but I don't know what it's about. But
you've probably got it on your shelf.
I've probably got it on my shelf. But I remember on reading somewhere that you've got sort of two types of mindsets. One which is a lot more like, just expand the pie and go for more, if that makes sense. So i.e., get on with it. Yes, you might get a worse deal, but you'll speak. What I was just saying to you, you'll get more consults in. You'll make that up another way. Or the other would be a slightly more closed mindset where, this is going to bug me. I've got this wrong.
I'm sure you'll get it. I'm sure you'll get it before the podcast ends. But right, stupid question from my side. When you go and look at a chair, will you get in the chair?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just thought I'd check.
Okay. So I guess they. Sorry, go on. Tell me.
I guess they all do the same thing, don't they?
Well, actually, you'll be surprised. So, yeah, this guy that I spoke to last week, one of my mates, he was saying, patients don't care, but I would like to think that they do. So I've worked in practices where you've literally got duct tape on the upholstery because there's a crack in it. And it's one of the first impressions patients get. Obviously, even if we were to go for a worst case scenario, secondhand check, which I've got no intention of doing that. I think people know when things are looking a bit crap, or when things aren't quite right. And I guess it's the same as driving, I don't know, a brand new BMW and driving a secondhand Dacia. Do you have a Dacia?
Do I have attached to the car?
Yes.
I do not have one, no.
Oh, I'm just giving you one of my great analogies.
All right, okay, cool.
Like if you're driving a brand new car and it's one with a big label on it, you're going to feel better about yourself, right? So I'd like to think that these incremental changes, again, this might be, I'll think back to this in a year and think, actually, that was absolute rubbish. But I think these incremental changes actually do make a difference to your performance. And if you feel good about the equipment, you can rely on it. I think you just do a better job. So that's why I'd rather not compromise.
That makes total sense.
And I think patients will see that as well. I think patients will see that actually this is the most comfortable. That's what people say for our chairs. One of the most comfortable places I've been. I don't want to get up. So that's the kind of thing you want.
And you've also put the effort into the rest of the practice as well. So obviously your waiting area is really nice.
Yeah.
Why would you then stop into the surgery sort of thing? Like why would your mentality switch there? So
well, I think the idea is that when patients come in, they're just rabbit in the headlights kind of situation, and they're not really fussed about anything. They just care if they have pain, and I think we need to give people a bit more respect in that. But again, like I say, on the flip side, that could be me just being naive. We don't know until we do this, right? So I could get one room and put a second-hand chair in, and I could get another room, and we could survey the patients afterwards to see what happens. That's the only time we'll do it.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So, no, I can't imagine you never letting that happen.
No.
Unless you're really desperate.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, cool. So that sort of brings us back nicely to that's obviously one of your goals this year is to get at least one more chair in.
I think I think we'll be getting a second one in. So I think I'm probably going, considering the lead times at the moment, I'll probably put an order in 3 or 4 months and say, can we delay delivery until December?
So you reckon by the end of this year we will have?
I think so. I think so, and I think I've alluded to this previously. Why I don't think our marketing efforts have been ideal. I think we've got a decent location. We've got a lot of flats around us, and so we've actually been a little bit complacent. Where we've always had enough patients, because patients need so much. We don't need the number so much. So because we've had a steady stream come through, we've been a little bit complacent with our marketing efforts, and it's only been in the last, as you know, in the last couple of months where we've really started to say, right. We've got an open day next week, which we need to talk about in a second. And we're starting to see, things paying off finally. So I think we'll start growing at an accelerating rate. And, 10th of January, 21:37, let's set this target. We're going to have a third chair in.
So we'd have three. We have 3 chairs live. Excellent.
Yes, that's amazing. What we're going to do.
So that's the chair side. How many staff do you reckon you'll have this time next year?
I'd like to get. So I need to do less work.
So less clinical.
I'm not lazy. Everything. I think I need to do less admin work as well. I think this will happen as the rest of the team members get more competent. I think that will happen, so in the last couple of months, I've been working a lot more in terms of the protocols, in terms of it's simple things like take payments sort of thing, or when a patient leaves, ask them this. And people don't do that because you can tell someone something, but it's not actually done until it's written down, and then you write it down, and then you can start measuring KPIs. Now we're at the stage where I've told people stuff, and now I've written it down and I've given it to them as a flow chart, and now we're going to start measuring KPIs. And if people aren't good enough, then we need to start culling, or even starting off with new staff members and telling them, right, this is what you've got to do. 20 patients today, 19 of them, you need to have asked them for a Google review, because if you ask 19, one person will do it. And I know that that's not happening because we record our calls. We've got CCTV, and if I really wanted to, I could listen to the audio on that. This is
Big Brother.
Yeah. So I didn't actually realise it recorded audio.
Oh my word!
And quite frankly, I don't have the time to do it. But it's things like that where I know that I can check stuff that's happening, and I know it's not happening. And just nailing down. I think the objectives for this year, and to be honest, this is probably this is the first time that I'm actually thinking about it clearly. Is I'd like to nail down team training. I think we'll probably have 3 surgeries in, but having 3 surgeries in if they're not making money is no point. So I think the nailing down the team training is quite important. I think it would be nice to start having root canals and implants done in the practice because we're seeing reasonable demand for those. And I don't really want to keep referring stuff out. I think we need to start introducing facial aesthetics, so Botox, fillers, stuff like that. And it would be nice if, Mike, you could do a landing page and a website page for that. I have no idea what we're going to put on it because I went to a taste today and I said this is not for me, and I never thought about it since. But I'll put you in touch with the right person once they go on.
We'll find someone who can tell us all about fillers and everything. That's cool. We won't just make it up.
And I think by the end of the year, I'd like someone who can start doing a treatment coordinator role. So
yeah,
I'd like my nurses to be scanning my patients and actually taking up, doing more of the checkup side of stuff. Because that's the whole concept of the practice. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing enough to make it work, but I'm doing all the work. But the whole concept of the practice with that central decon area where dentists can jump from room to room is having a hygienist, therapist, or a nurse scanning, taking X-rays, etc., etc. And I'd like to start introducing that slowly. So now that we're getting to the stage where we really need to start doing performance appraisals and things like that, I think we need to look at what's gone well and what's not gone so well and what we're going to introduce. So I'd like my nurses to upskill. I'd like to have someone doing a treatment coordinator role. I'm not sure who will do that, but I waste far too much time doing consultations. To be fair, I think we qualify people quite well just over the phone. So when we do consultations, we convert most of them. But I would say that probably we only convert 30% of people on the phone, or possibly even less, and that's really not good. But of those people calling up, some might be NHS, which I think you can still convert some of them. But thinking out loud, I think that's somewhere where we can improve. I know for a fact that when an Invisalign inquiry comes in and I take the call, I will probably book 9 out of 10 people off that call. And I know that my colleagues will probably book 4 out of 10 or 5 out of 10. And those patients I feel like there's always more work for me to do. Now, I don't answer the call and introduce myself as a dentist. They don't know. They just, okay, it's probably a bit odd that a man's answered the call because, stereotypically, front of house is always women. But I feel like patients are more prepared. We've gone into why they're actually coming, and why they're coming is not because they want Invisalign. Why they're coming is because they want to smile better or eat better or whatever. So they know why they're attending for that appointment. In terms of the outcome that they're hoping to achieve, not the way that they're hoping to get there, if that makes sense. So, and they know what they're expecting to pay, and they know that we've taken an interest in what we're doing. But just getting that nailed down with the team and giving them the confidence to actually have that conversation with patients, because if you're not clinical and you don't have that background to say, to ask patients actually, how is this affecting you day to day, why now, sort of thing. How urgent is this, that sort of thing. Asking that on the first phone call when you've only spoken to that patient for maximum 2 minutes can be quite daunting. I can understand that because I found it daunting, but once you do it a couple of times, you realize, well, actually patients really appreciate it. And I actually had a patient come in last week and she said, I got more out of that phone call than I did out of 2 other consultations. And I'm just thinking, what was happening at your other consultations? I mean,
what was going on?
I didn't answer anything that that was out of the ordinary. You didn't ask me a question that was out of the ordinary. And I haven't given you information that I wouldn't give other people on the phone. So,
I guess making the most of the inquiries that come in. I guess like not leaving anything on the table.
Yeah, but also learning not to waste time. So we signed up to a certain application, which I've copied you into, a finance sort of company, and they have an app, and they so it's along the lines of Klarna, but not Klarna. And they have an app which they sort of ping people who've used that finance facility before, and we started getting inquiries from all over the country. And when you go from having a few a day to having 40 in an evening, you think, oh my god, what the hell has just happened? And it turns out, well, we've got Inquiry Bot. It makes it really easy to capture details because Inquiry Bot's quite engaging. And a lot of people have been pinged, and chances are that they were just sitting at home filling something in, not realizing that they were at the other end of the country, and just knowing that it's not worth our time to call every single one of these patients. So just picking and choosing what we're going to do. We're not going to keep calling that patient 5 times because we've already called them 4 times. They didn't answer. We've sent them 4 emails. They haven't answered. Let's not waste time. Let's do something else. Because those leads that are just contacted, who we've put on the back burner because we were chasing someone else, we're probably letting the warm leads go. So again, this is down to training, which...
So have you got any idea of what you're going to do from a training plan perspective? Was that something you need to look into?
How do you mean?
Like, have you got an outline of the training that you're going to start over the year, or?
I don't have an outline as to what's going to come when. I think I'm going to. I mean, at the moment, what I've been doing is just identifying a need and then sort of dealing with it. So I guess more reactive than proactive. But also, it's been prompted by Invisalign Open Day. Right, everyone needs to know what Invisalign is. Oh yeah, by the way, Invisalign had this online training module for staff members. So I think doing stuff like that is just being a bit proactive. But again, as other members of staff start taking more of my work, I can start looking into other things. Because so for example, getting my aunt, who's the practice manager, to do a training manual, it's not fair on her because she's never worked in dentistry before, but it's not going to work from my perspective. It's going to be frustrating because she won't necessarily know what people will ask, or you won't know to, I think there are situations when people ask something and to be engaging, or to just shut them off. And we had someone come in today, for example, and she spoke to them for so long. And I just happened to walk to reception at that point. I was just finishing up with a patient, and the patient was saying to my aunt, "Oh, I've got something stuck in my tooth. It'll only take him 10 minutes. Why is it going to cost me £69 for an emergency appointment?" Putting aside the fact that I can't see this patient during normal hours, so it should have been £200, not £69. And I walked out. I looked at her. I sort of got a vague idea of what was going on, and I just walked back off because it just annoyed me that this person was being engaged, where the answer should have just been, look, I know we're private and that it should all be about customer service and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes you just got to cut people off and say, look, this is what we can do for you, this is your problem. The fact that it takes 10 minutes is a reflection of 10 years and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of training. And also, with respect, you're not the dentist, you don't know it's going to take 10 minutes. If it's going to take 10 minutes, you should consider doing it yourself. But obviously in kinder words. In
a nice way, yeah.
Yeah, but little things like that where if I've answered that call to someone, if they're in the chair, I don't care because they're paid, so that's fine. But if I've answered that call, it'll be very simple. But I don't know what the problem is. You come in, I'll have a look. This is my cost to have a look. Would you like to have a look? Oh, but it'll only take you 10 minutes. What I can do for you, sir, is I can have a look, and this is our cost to have a look. Is this something you'd like to do? And just, getting them to put your balls on the line. Are you interested or not? And if they are, you're going, something's happening. But I think for my aunt, because she doesn't understand the value of, I wouldn't say she doesn't understand the value of dentistry, but because she hasn't worked in it before, I would say that previously she didn't understand it, where people would come in and they'd say, oh, you've got a half price offer on teeth whitening, it's still too expensive. The correct answer to that is £184.50 to work with a highly trained person for teeth whitening when no one else is doing that. It's actually a pretty good deal, so go away.
Yeah.
And then every time this person comes in, she's still spending time being nice to them. It's just go away. You're wasting my time.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
I think so. That's why, just going back to what I was saying, that training manual has to be made or outlined by me and then filled in by other members of staff. Because if I dictate it all, I'm not there all the time, so I don't know 100% what their job entails. I can listen back to the recordings, but that's not always going to happen. So I think outlining stuff and getting them to annotate it and then finalizing the document, and if they've been part of it, they will be more likely to follow it.
Yeah, they take a bit of ownership.
Yeah, but the flip side, I don't think it will work because everyone will just and ah and sit on their hands. So I think there has to be the basis for it, and then you're given the freedom to make some minor changes to it and major changes if they make sense. Because if certain things are just not going to happen.
Yeah. So plus if they see the benefit of the manual, and they sort of get the buy-in, then they'll probably be like way more open to adding to it for future reference and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. But I think so. For now, we've got. I think we're lacking experience front of house, so we've got lots of enthusiasm, but not a lot of experience. So I think that's something we need to add into that. So I guess a bit like a football manager making signings, we need to add some experience.
Add some experience. I love it. Excellent. Right. So just a couple more questions before we wrap up.
Sure.
So we've kind of, we're going from 1 surgery to 3. You want to add a lot more treatments and other services. Have you got an idea of how many patients you'll have this time next year? So you said you're currently hovering around the 400 mark. What do you reckon what you'll have January 10, 2023?
So I think that question a year ago, I would have given you a straight answer, but I'm not because I don't care. I would hope, no, but I'm being serious. I would hope that we've got in the region of about 1,000, 1,200 patients. But I would much rather have a patient who comes in with a treatment need and requires 10 appointments than a patient who comes in with no treatment need because our examinations are 49 quid. We lose 50 quid on each one. Recalls, we make money. That's fine. But there's no guarantee that the patient's coming back for a recall after the first visit, unless they're on our membership plan. I think a bigger target for me to set is at the moment we've got about 60 patients on our membership plan. So it's it's not a huge number. It's about 15% of the overall number. I think it would be nice if we could get, let's say, so we're on 60-ish. So I don't know, 200. Yeah, 200 plus. That would be nice because 200 plus, our monthly plan is £22 a month for the basic one, assuming they're all in the basic one, which they're not, but assuming they're all in the basic plan, then 200 times 22 is, I want to say, 8,800 a month, which would be a tidy sum. That would pay a lot of bills. But also, I think from my perspective, that is a lot more valuable to me than just sheer patient numbers.
That's a better KPI. Yeah,
I think so. Oh, what a word, KPI. We need to do
KPI, man. Get the KPIs down. That makes I'd forgotten to ask you about your memberships, but going from 60 to 200, that's a pretty good task.
Yeah, and you know what? Because a lot of our patients, I think we need to training on the memberships because a lot of our patients say, "Oh, we don't want to go for the membership because we've already got insurance." But we can still invoice our patients because every single appointment they attend for, it's not got a zero value. It's got a value attached to it, which we can invoice them for because that's the true value of it. And they can then claim it back from their insurance. So I think getting a bit more training on that would be helpful for patients because not everyone, a lot of people have insurance, but not everyone does. But just the fact that it's got a 12% discount, I've got some patients who spent just basic dentistry. They spend, £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 just doing basic stuff. But because they've got insurance, they're okay with it. But obviously their insurance doesn't cover the full amount. So why wouldn't you still get the 12% discount because that's just money in their pocket. But I think that's something that I need to explain a bit better to our patients.
But that's a good. I like that target. And then I had one more, and it may have just gone out of my mind. Recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue. So you're currently between the 30 to 40 mark. What do you reckon what's the ideal range this time next year?
For next year? Well, our projection for next year was 20 months, was 42. So I think we'll probably be well above that. I don't know, is the honest answer. Because these projections are no longer valid because I didn't realize the costs were going to be so high, or the patient value was going to be so much. But assuming we're double now, we're nice. Or let's say we're 50% more now on a average / bad month. I would, it'd be nice to be around the 60k mark, 80k mark, come the end of the year. But I think that's going to hinge a lot on us doing some of the big value treatments. A lot of that's going to hinge on us marketing better, which we haven't been doing. So, with this Invisalign stuff, I think if we get a few of those under our belt, which it looks like this month's going to be a decent month, then we'll certainly be a lot closer to that. Also, more specialist treatments. So I think getting those higher value treatments is pretty crucial for us because. General dentistry is very good, but it's very time consuming. But I would say that unless I'm doing something wrong, I would say that I make pretty much the same amount of money for less stress in general dentistry. It takes a lot of time, but it's less stress than orthodontics, for example. So it's nice to have some of the bigger values, but I think it's going to be a combination of everything. It's going to be a combination of having bigger value treatments. It's going to be a combination of having just more patients who need more stuff. And obviously the NHS situation's got to pan out because staff members are asking for more money, rightly so, and the NHS pot is getting smaller. So how many contracts are getting handed back, and how many patients are going to be released into the big world of private dentistry from that? I don't know. So that's something to consider as well.
Cool, man. Perfect. So what one final question to wrap this thing up on. Are you excited for 2022?
Yes, I'm excited to go on holiday this year.
Oh yeah, did you go away last year at all?
No.
So where are you gonna go, and when are you going?
So I've already booked Iceland for June with schoolmates.
Nice.
And for family holiday, we're still deciding what we're going to do, but I don't think I'm going to go anywhere before the summer. I think if we do go on a second holiday, it will be towards the end of the year. And it just depends on the staffing situation. I think a week I can do, but I don't think I can go away for more than that at the moment. But obviously, hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll be taking on a general associate as well, and we can take it from there.
Perfect. That sounds great. I want you to go on holiday as well. You need to go rest up.
Get rid of these bags.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think that's one of the best. So the week before Christmas, I didn't go to work. I think I maybe worked half a day because I didn't want to. I just felt that I had to turn off, and I think anyone listening, you will get to that stage where you sort of just had to switch off and forget about Ealing Council contacting you for business rates. Just say no.
Just unplug the phone.
Not unplug the phone. Just call them and say no. Balls out. It's.
I love that.
Basically
so
what
good.
Happened.
I can pay you less, or you can put me out of business.
Yeah. That was literally it.
That's fantastic. No, that's good, man. Honestly, I'm looking forward to this. This year's gonna be great. I know it's gonna be good for you. You smashed 2021, and obviously everyone else will get to listen in on your journey and now see your journey as we progress through this year.
Yes, my receding hairline.
Thanks for being co-host, and thanks for letting me prod you and use you as a guinea pig. But I think you enjoy talking. I think you enjoy sort of passing on your knowledge.
I think it's, I think I've got out of this a lot more than other people will get out of this, if that makes sense. Just speaking out loud and that process of reflection. I think before, so thank you so much, but because I think before we started talking about this, I probably hadn't thought about a lot of it. So it's almost like a therapy session.
Weirdly, yeah. Or a therapy / business consulting.
Yes, exactly. And the great thing is it's free for me, so
Yeah, I'm picking up stuff all the time, which is great.
Yeah,
it's a good content. So right, we'll wrap it up there. We're at over an hour in, so I think we're good for today. But obviously, plenty of conversations to have over this year. Going to get some more guests on, and yeah, just ramp up. I'm going to be my goal this year is to consistently put out a podcast episode every week.
Cool. So, we'll book a date for next week.
So I expect you to hold me accountable.
Yes, we're booking a date today.
So I've actually for your benefit, I've actually found a little bit of loophole that doesn't fully tire you and Lewis out. Okay. So I actually have started doing podcasts with guests without you two. I know, cheeky, right?
Well, in the background,
it just
I've looked up growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So that's what I was referring to, which people can Google.
Perfect. So you were right.
Yes, but I couldn't remember what the other one was, what the negative thing was.
Perfect. And then I was about to wrap up, but I have to ask you one more question.
Yes.
You haven't got a toilet roll holder for the staff toilet. Is that on the list for this year?
It was actually on my list for today. Didn't happen.
I'm also thinking you're over researching it.
No. I do have one. It's just not on the wall. It's just not on the wall. Honestly, it's the simplest thing ever.
Got it.
Yeah. I had it since day one. That was one of the first things I bought.
Oh, you just haven't put it on the wall. That makes sense.
Yes. So we've got one. So now at the moment, people just, it's probably not very hygienic, just picking up the toilet roll.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's end it there.
Yeah. Well, no. Look, come on. I reckon that happens in the toilet roll holder as well. I don't know what people do in the bathroom, but there we are.
Oh, we really ended today on a low, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Down in the dumps.
Right. Down in the dumps, right? And that cue. I'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye, dude.
Bye.
Bye.